Alright, so here we're starting the drawing of the realistic apple, and right now I'm just tracing the I'm not tracing, I'm just drawing the outside contour lines of the apple. It's a red delicious, so you can see kind of at the base it's more squared off, and they're a lot taller, a lot more prominent features on these apples, right? And there I just traced the highlights and a little indent in the top where the stem would be. And that's basically what I'm doing right now, just lightening it up, making the edges a bit more crisp, so that way I can get a lot more of a nice shiny surface. I don't want it to be too dull when I do that. So here I'm using an 8B graphite lead, and I'm just adding some of the main shading in the back. Now usually I would layer these pencils, but for the sake of time for this video I'm just going to do it the quicker way. And I'm just kind of adding the shading. It's going to be darkest over there by the end, and a little bit lighter there because that's where the large bump is, and there's going to be a little bit of reflective light hitting there. Now down near the base, don't be coloring that, don't be shading that in too much, because you'll see why once I start adding the shadow. So here I am kind of filling it in a little bit, tracing, creating more of a darker outline. There's going to be a little bit of a shadow near the other edge because of the way the light is going to be shining on this apple. And so here you can kind of start to see where the highlights are going to be, the outline. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, I just added some lighter shading with the 2H pencil just to get the cross-contour lines in there, make it look the texture of the apple going up and down. You don't want to be doing like hatching and cross-hatching with these pencils, obviously. So, and now you can see how the curve of that part of the apple there is really pronounced. It's not going to be so much pronounced later in the video, but right now I'm just trying to get a feel of how I'm going to be doing this. So right now I'm sharpening my pencil and fiddling with the sharpener. Alright, I'm back. Now I'm adding in more of those cross contour lines there, adding in the highlight, basically the outline of the highlight, not the highlight yet. Darkening up that center one just a little bit, adding in some texture with the kneaded eraser and the rubber eraser. And here is my 2B pencil that I'm adding in the outside lines of the little indent in the top of the apple with, and using a 2B and a 2H pencil to add the little texture lines there that are aiming inward. Can't really see in the video very well. And now I'm just making the edges a little more crisp. And remember, apples are not symmetrical, so don't make your apple symmetrical, because if it is, that really takes away from the realistic quality of the drawing. So here I'm using the blending stump a little bit just to make everything look a little more shiny so it's not a dull, boring surface. And now making the highlight not too crisp, kind of a little bit of a lighter shading around it just to make it look a little bit more of a dull surface, but I don't want it to look like a glass surface because this apple is not supposed to look like glass. Now here I just took a little bit away with the kneaded eraser because I didn't really like how that was looking. And I'm just going to fill that back in again, make it look a little bit better. And here I'm just making the base of the apple look a little cleaner. So now that everything's smudged here, I'm going to start adding in, making that stem and the dent there a little bit more detailed, just kind of blending things, doing the last kind of things aside from the shadow. So here I'm making it a little bit more asymmetrical just because it makes it look a little bit more realistic. And now I'm making the edges crisper again. Now here I'm using an 8B graphite lead to make the darkest parts of the shadow, which are going to be at the base of the apple, and then shadows start to become a little bit less crisp and a little bit more lighter as they go farther away from the original object. So you can see there, that's what I've done. And I'm blending it to make it look very nice and clean with the blending stump, and you can see why the base of the apple was just a little bit lighter there, just so you can really see the shadow there. It's not going to stay that light because that's a bit too dramatic there. I'm going to darken that up a little bit. And now back to work near the top again. You'll see me doing in a couple of minutes, in a little while here. Just making the top a little bit more realistic. There I'm signing it, and with a few finished touches, this is what we'll get. Thank you.